It sits on a desert hilltop like a spaceship at rest, but this circular structure is no alien craft. This is the last house designed by America's most famous architect, Frank Lloyd Wright. Today we'll explore his ultimate home's breathtaking interior and meet the woman who loved this home for 20 years before she could call it her own. This remarkable story of the last Wright next on Dream Living. Fast-growing Phoenix, Arizona is the 8th largest city in the United States, but long before high-rises sprung up downtown, architect Frank Lloyd Wright left a very different mark on this desert community. Hi, I'm Jody Daly and welcome to Dream Living. And today we are in Phoenix in front of the last home that Frank Lloyd Wright designed before his death. And the very fortunate owner is Linda Melton.
Hi, Jody.
How are you?
Fine.
Good. You saw this like 20 years before you bought it.
I was very young, saw it in a publication, fell in love with the house, and just someday hoped that I'd be able to live in it. And here I am. Bought it 2 years ago and now trying to get settled in, and we're still a work in progress type situation, but I'm living here.
Oh, this is a dream come true.
Yeah, it really is. It's my dream home.
Though Linda's modern masterpiece sits on a craggy desert hillside, the story of how it got there starts 100 years ago and half a continent away. For it was on the level streets of turn-of-the-century Chicago that Frank Lloyd Wright got his start. After the Great Chicago Fire leveled the city in 1871, the finest architects in the world drew up plans to rebuild a metropolis. It was these architects that gave the world the skyscraper. One of those who helped design these towering structures was a young Frank Lloyd Wright, but the Wisconsin native soon rejected the ideas of his peers. Wright believed buildings should fit the landscape they sat on, and the Midwest was undeniably flat. Designing homes to match their site, Wright's creations were long and horizontal, a style that was called the Prairie School of Architecture. Over the years, Wright's work kept evolving, often reflecting his interest in Japanese art and design. In the 1930s, he started wintering in Arizona. The first of many structures that he built there was a studio and a home for himself. At first glance, the building differs dramatically from his Prairie School style, but again, this home blends into the desert's landscape. Wright didn't stop with the building's shell. He designed a complete environment, including pieces of furniture created especially for each home, for Wright believed that an architect molds the people who live or work in a building. This desert oasis called Taliesin West doubled as a school for young architects. It was here that Wright penciled his last projects, including the one that Linda Melton now calls home.
I was with Frank Lloyd Wright at the time when he designed the house. The original clients, Mr. and Mrs. Norman Likes, were actually friends of mine.
John Rattenberry was one of Wright's apprentices at Taliesin West in the 1950s.
So Mr. Wright would have been 90 years old at that time. But when I say 90 years old, I mean, believe me, I was in my late 20s and I couldn't keep up with him. And Mr. Wright had us do what we call a topographic map. And we mapped all the contours out here, and we actually put the drawing on Mr. Wright's desk. And then I told him a little bit about the program that the Likes wanted to build, to how many children they had and everything. And Mr. Wright started to sketch the house out. This was in April 1959, and April 9th he died, just suddenly.
The Likes waited 3 years before building the home. John stepped into his mentor's shoes to oversee the project's completion.
Mr. Wright was a pioneer in sensitivity to the environment, and so we wanted the house to be built looking as though nobody had disturbed any of the terrain. The contractor was very sensitive about not scarring up the site, and in fact, basically hand-carried all the concrete blocks into the site down a little narrow trail so he wouldn't touch the cactus. And when the house was finished, the natural desert flowed right up to within inches of the wall.
Though the original owners loved the home, in time it was sold. For years, it was rented out to a succession of tenants and began to take a beating.
The house was really starting to fall apart. It was painful for us to see this beautiful house just kind of being neglected. And so when Linda came along and said, I not only want to buy this house, but I want to restore it and really bring fresh life into it, it was very exciting.
In 1993, Louisiana native Linda Melton found herself house hunting in Phoenix. She saw a for sale sign that said Frank Lloyd Wright and stumbled onto her childhood fantasy.
I came running up here with a group of friends and just said, you know, I'm going to live in that house.
Did you feel
That's
like
the
deja
house.
vu?
Yes, it was very deja vu. It was kind of like, ooh, what's going on? But it was a very sad-looking house. It needed a lot of work done on it. The paint was chipping, and it was just really kind of like a beautiful lady that needed kind of an uplift. It was really.
So this beautiful lady gave it the
Oh,
uplift.
thank you.
Well, why don't we go inside?
Great, come on.
When we return, Linda Melton gives a personal tour of Frank Lloyd Wright's final masterpiece. This striking Phoenix residence is the last home designed by America's most famous and influential architect, Frank Lloyd Wright. The home features a concentric design, one circle inside another, a design theme present in Wright's final work. An apprentice of Mr. Wright's, John Rattenbury, oversaw the home's construction and knows the design intimately.
The front door is actually tucked in behind, almost unobtrusive, but in approaching it, you have this little glimpse into this courtyard through these openings. And then as you come in, you're squeezed down in space, and then it begins to open up. But we're saving the most beautiful thing for later. We're not putting it all out in front. It's a little bit like the Japanese when they make these beautiful lacquer boxes. You know, the box looks beautiful from the outside, and then you open it up, and what is inside is even more beautiful. And so when you come into this living room here, the space just seems to open out to you in this marvelous panoramic view.
Today, the scenic view greets current owner, communications executive Linda Melton, every morning.
To me, a Frank Lloyd Wright design home is just the simplicity of the beauty of the architecture. It's a living, to me, it's a piece of art. This is kind of like living in a piece of sculpture.
It really is, and the smoothness and the roundness of it.
The circles, the whole house is a series of circles.
Now, when you moved in here, or when you bought the place, it wasn't like this. It wasn't,
No.
Because this is pristine, and I hear that there was quite a bit of
Well,
work.
it had been a rent house for a number of years, and as rental property goes, you know, renters have a tendency not to take care of something as the owner would. So it was pretty shabby. The furniture, I still have a lot of the original furniture, and the dining room table is original. The coffee table is original, as are other little pieces I'll show you throughout the house.
Many of the pieces that aren't original to the house are still Wright's designs. Those are his barrel chairs around the dining room table, and his surprisingly comfortable Taliesin chairs in the front of the fire. Their design was apparently influenced by Mr. Wright's appreciation of origami, the Japanese art form of folded paper. In her restoration, Linda upgraded the home to include details Mr. Wright had specified, but the original owners couldn't afford. In fact, Linda oversaw much of the work herself, starting with the floor.
This is copper tile from India. It took months to get it in, and when it finally came in, it was all in huge crates. And I had a tire tool thing, a crowbar, and I used to get out there and break open. And it was like finding a treasure with every crate that I got into, because they're all so individual. None of them are like, some of them, for instance, this one has a real coppery hue to it, where this one doesn't.
This is speckled over here, and this is striated.
I literally hand washed and selected every one of these. I had a huge brush, and I washed them down and selected them and brought them all in and put them around. And these things are pretty heavy. One day I found out they weigh anywhere from 15 to 19 pounds each.
And you were just
I was
hauling
just
them all
getting
out.
4 or 5 at a time, bringing them in. I wonder why the guys were looking at me kind of strange. And so then I got wise and finally bought a dolly and started bringing them in on
I
the
thought you were
dolly.
going to say, then I got wise and let somebody else do it, but I guess not.
No, that wouldn't have been any fun, you know.
Helping Linda complete the restoration was interior designer and longtime friend Mill Baudron. Mill was careful to follow Mr. Wright's conception for the home.
Everything is a composition of circles down to the the plan, and then the circular couch, the circular table, all the circular stools that are rotating around it.
That's actually the couch
Yeah.
in the living room.
It's built in. It spirals around the outer edge of the room.
Now he did that a lot with building furniture,
he built in
didn't
a lot of his furniture.
So everything here is sort of a flow into a circle, and then, well, from this room we go from here into the kitchen. And does that also have the same theme going throughout?
Yeah, everything is concentric circles. The living room is a circle, and where it intersects with the kitchen, it's a circle off the center.
The home's concentric design is even repeated in the kitchen block table that Wright designed for the room.
Do you see how it's a miniature version of the house itself? A large circle with a smaller circle.
So this would be like the
intersecting it?
kitchen, and this would be
Right.
the larger.
The kitchen, the living room, or the living room and the fireplace.
The circular pattern continues throughout the kitchen. The steel-topped counter and the beautifully refurbished Philippine mahogany cabinetry repeat the theme. Even the appliances accommodate the round space. But Linda did desire a few upgrades of the room's semicircle windows.
They didn't open at all, and I knew that I loved to cook. I was going to be in the kitchen line, and I could not handle the windows not being able to open. So we had them all replaced with the original Hope windows that were originally designed for the house. Took a drawing, and they custom made them for him here.
Was it tough to find people to actually put in a beautifully curved stainless steel counter, or refurbish these cabinets, or do some of the work that needed to be done?
I was just lucky in finding it was meant for me to be in this house, so everything just worked right and just pulled together. So everything we really thought was going to be a big problem, we were real fortunate. It ended up not really being a problem.
Another example of Linda's wonderful transformation of this home is found just outside the kitchen. The first room off the entrance foyer was once a rather dusty workshop. Linda and Mill converted the space into a state-of-the-art entertainment center. The original Wright pieces are paired with furnishings by other leading designers.
The only thing that's original to the house are the stools, which are just like the ones in the living room, and the end tables, which used to be in the children's bedrooms. This is an Italian sofa from the Sede. The lounge chairs are by Alba Alto, who was a historic architect. They're from the 1930s.
In a moment, we'll discover how this remarkable design for living works in the home's magical bedrooms. Frank Lloyd Wright homes such as this one in Phoenix, Arizona, are considered by many the work of a true genius. Wright himself felt the same way, once even identifying himself on the witness stand as the world's greatest living architect. Later, asked why he made such a claim, he responded that he was under oath.
What you end up with is a house that was actually, if you think about it, was designed in 1959, and you walk in there today and you could say, 20 years from now, you'll come into this house and it'll seem new and fresh and never out of date. It's a timeless design.
Part of the timeless appeal is due to its long bedroom wing, one of Wright's trademarks.
In detaching the bedroom wing and making it, he used to call it a polywog. And the nice thing about doing this is that it gives you a lot of flexibility. Originally there were 4 children, and so there were 1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms here, plus the master bedroom, which was smaller.
When Linda Melton bought the house, she had John revise the original 5 bedrooms into 3 larger ones. So this is your guest bedroom?
Right, It used to be 2 very small, tiny bedrooms. I knocked out one of the walls and made it larger. It has its own private bath, which the bath was, originally in that location.
As with many architects of his day, Wright thought of the bathrooms as strictly functional spaces and kept the rooms small and to the point. Linda had interior designer Mill Baudron update the room.
Since the bathrooms are so small, I feel like you have to be very careful about what fixtures you pick to use in them and where you put them to use all the space. And then just
those tiles.
Those are Italian glass mosaic tiles. It's glass with copper pressed in between them.
Many of the furnishings in the bedroom itself are Wright's originals, including the elegant bedside tables. In the corner is a built-in desk, perfect for the children of the original owners. Linda has remained faithful to these designs in adding to the home.
This was added. We needed more storage space in here. and it's, you know, it serves quite well for things that we need for guests, such as towels and things like that.
I love the sound of the bells outside.
Aren't they wonderful?
They really are very
They really
peaceful,
are.
and as you look out over the mountain, you feel like you're, you know, you're supposed to be meditating or something.
Yeah, I really love it. It gives me a very good feeling to hear that, and it's just really very soothing.
One of the neat architectural features that's consistent through the house is this little wooden shelf right here that divides the operable windows from the clear story windows above.
Oh,
all the
I
way
see.
around. Isn't that neat?
Throughout the house.
Oh, did you find that when you came into the house for the first time, you found all these little secrets, and then every time you went through it, you found some more, and then some more?
Yeah, it's like a little surprise every time I came in.
Linda's own surprising gift to the house is just down the closet-lined hall. She combined 2 of the old bedrooms into one spacious marbled floored master suite.
The wall to this bedroom stopped here, and there was a hallway over here that went down into the master bedroom.
And that was all master bedroom down there from there over. So it was very small. It was very foreshortened.
And now it's all the beautiful built-in cabinetry over there.
The built-ins are original all the way around the perimeter.
Now the bed and the side tables, are they original, or are they just really great reproductions?
No, this is the original side tables. We just had to make a different type of platform to cover return air vent. The return air vent. is
However, the
there.
original master bed was built in, very similar to this.
The bed takes in a terrific view of the Phoenix Hills, while just outside, a small balcony provides a good point to look back at the house.
Really look at the view of the house this direction from right here. See the curve of the living room, and then you can see the inverse curve of the bedroom wing that comes all the way around here and ends at this point of this balcony. And also, see these rocks down here. This is the original rock formation that Frank Lloyd Wright did not want disturbed. That's why he situated the house where it is, so it looks like it landed right on top of these rocks and didn't mess up any of them.
You're not kidding. It really
Yeah.
does look like it landed. It looks like something out of Star Trek from this angle.
Also, the colors that we've used in and around the house come from these rocks and the foliage out here. See that sort of reddish clayish color
Yeah.
and the grayish color in those rocks?
And also the deep, the bronzes. You can also pick up flecks in the cactus and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's beautiful.
But perhaps the best part of the master suite is back inside. Just beyond an elegant wood screen divider is Linda's luxurious bath.
All in my favorite colors, yes.
Oh, this is just great. This is huge too, and I love the skylight up there. They just seem to reoccur at just the right spots all through the house, don't they?
They're really very good.
When the bedroom was enlarged, this wall made sense to push over a little bit. So we put a much larger tub here and a much larger shower at the end. And we used more Italian glass tile back here, but this one is a larger module and it's copper pressed between glass. So it has a wonderful copper shimmering effect, not unlike the landscape around the house.
Not only that, but it reminds me a lot too of the slate that's all over the floor.
Yeah.
Now you didn't watch these piece by piece, did you?
No.
Okay.
Though the new improved bath certainly sparkles, purists might ask, how does an owner dare improve on Frank Lloyd Wright?
This house was built in the early 60s, and there was really nothing historic about these bathrooms at all. They had used standard off-the-shelf equipment of the early 60s. No historical architectural intrinsic value at all. So we felt like we could, you know,
Take a little liberty.
Update
Yeah,
it,
with
make it
respect,
nicer.
you know,
Yeah.
with due respect to Mr. Wright and his designs, I just put my personality, my colors, and me into a Frank Lloyd Wright house.
Though the master suite completes the ground floor of the house, there are 2 more rooms
Yeah.
back near the entrance foyer.
I'm trying to count. I bet I couldn't count as many tiles as you had to wash and
Quite a
dry.
few of them.
Now off to the right here is another little room that we haven't gone in, and that's sort of a library.
The library, everything is original in there. All we did was just sort of spruce up the wood a little bit and put down the floors, which, you know, were natural, and everything's just still the same.
And one of those great barrel chairs.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to let you lead up. This is the office.
This is the
isn't it?
office, right.
I love the vents and the stairs.
That was Mill's idea. That's the return air.
At the top of the stairs is a circular office with richly refurbished built-in cabinetry.
Here again, we added the Hope windows so that they would all be operable and work.
Oh, great. That's great. And I see that still the shapes are all the same, including this, which looks like the bedroom wing,
Right.
Yeah,
actually.
another reinterpretation of the plan.
The tower office overlooks the home's last and largest circle, the courtyard and pool. We'll head out in a minute and learn the story behind Frank Lloyd Wright's circular obsession. Master architect Frank Lloyd Wright spent many of his final years at his Phoenix home, Taliesin West. Throughout his life, Wright strove to have his designs blend with the building's landscape. Here, the desert melds with walls of gold, green, and quartz stones bound together by concrete. Today, the residence continues to be an architectural school administered by the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. In his later years, Wright's designs began to focus on the spiritual quality of the circle. Wright's most famous round structure, the Guggenheim Museum in New York City, features a 3/4-mile long gallery ramp that spirals down at a 3% grade. The circles were more than a whim. Wright came to see the shape as essential for health and happiness. Many of his closest associates, including John Rattenbury, view Wright's last home as the architect's ultimate spiritual statement.
The circular form somehow always leads you around space. You never quite see the end of it. You always want to know what's around the corner. And so space, instead of being confined into a box, which is a terrible shape to put a human being in, I mean, you have no square shapes in your body. Every part of your body is rounded. So your body is going to feel more comfortable, more natural.
Today, homeowner Linda Melton attests to both the comfort and the beauty of the home's circular courtyard.
Wow, this is just heaven on earth, isn't it? This is the best of Phoenix, I imagine.
For me it is. It's kind of like living out in Carefree, but you're like 5 minutes away from the heart of anything that you want to do. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Now, when you folks first saw this, when you first came in and bought the house, was it like this? I imagine not, because these look like they have your signature on them.
No, it was a grass, bare patches of grass, and an 85-foot ficus that was growing over there in that corner, and it was very dark and very dismal looking. Nothing like it is now.
The courtyard's focal point is its quarter-moon pool. Designed by Wright, it was never built until Linda arrived to complete his original vision.
Those are little individual mother of pearl tiles. They're like an inch, little individual mosaic tiles.
Let me ask you something. As you look out on what you created or recreated, would you do it again?
Yeah. In a different way, but yeah, I'd do it again.
Would you help her?
Absolutely. In a minute.
Well, thank you for coming out from Dallas to see us.
Thank you.
And thank you for inviting
Thank
us to
you,
your
Jody.
home. We really enjoyed
Thank
this.
you.
This has been a lot of fun. And thank you for joining us too. For Mill and for Linda and for all of us on the show, I'm Jody Daly. Bye-bye.
Sometimes a dream home comes not just from one person's vision, but the shared vision of many people working together. Today we'll visit two very different dream homes and meet the teams of people who made them a reality. It's all coming up next on Dream Living. New York City, one of America's most vibrant and exciting places. And in the Big Apple, Manhattan's Upper East Side is where many of the city's elite make their home. This is some of the most expensive real estate in the country, and the most exclusive homes are in towering apartment buildings sandwiched between Central Park and the East River. It's next to impossible to even find apartments available in this part of town, so making a dream home on the Upper East Side often means reworking less than perfect existing spaces. When a prominent New York couple wanted to transform their drab 1920s Upper East Side flat into an elegant showcase, they called on architect and designer Tim McDonald. Tim's inventive approach to design and ingenious use of small spaces made him the perfect choice for this ambitious renovation. The result is this stunning 3,000 square foot one-bedroom masterpiece.
Hi, I'm Jody Daly, and this is Dream Living. Today we're not only going to take you on a tour, but we're also going to introduce you to the team of people who turned a tired old Upper East Side space into a real showplace.
Although the owners of the apartment we're about to visit wish to maintain their privacy, they are understandably proud of the transformation of their home. So proud that they allowed photographer Bill Cunningham to document the whole process for the February 1995 issue of Architectural Digest magazine. Up one flight from the street, the elevator opens onto a small foyer, which leads into the entrance hall. It's here we met up with the driving force behind this renovation.
Now, Tim McDonald, you were the interior designer responsible for the look of this beautiful apartment.
That's right.
What was the mandate when you started the project?
Well, the client had heard a lot of horror stories about doing renovations in Manhattan, and she said she wanted this to be an easy, effortless experience.
The task ahead looked far from effortless. The entire original apartment had to be completely gutted. Walls needed repair, floors had to be refinished, even the structural layout required modification. Tim knew that the only way to turn this dilapidated flat into a dream home was through teamwork. Early on, he assembled a top-notch team of contractors, designers, and consultants. Heavy construction began the day after Memorial Day in 1994. And the client moved in by Thanksgiving, an amazing feat of coordination, organization, and teamwork. The end result was a home rich in style and elegance that, thanks to careful planning and design, maximizes every inch of this 3,000 square foot space. Directly to the right of the entrance hall is the first stop on our tour, the living room. This space offered Tim some of his most difficult challenges. He began by adding arches to the doorways of the house to soften the space and make it seem more inviting. Other improvements to the room included refurbished and modernized windows and a newly refinished parquet floor. When it came time for the interior design of the living room, Tim wanted a mix of antique pieces and reproductions. He then brought in team member Leslie Ranko, a New York art dealer, to select the fine art that would complement the stately antiques.
Now, when the owner said to you, "We want art in our apartment," what were some of the things that they said, we don't want this or we do want that, or did they leave it up to you?
In this instance, they essentially left it up to me initially, which means that I met with Tim and with the client, and I felt what the apartment was like and very much what the lady of the house was like.
Leslie chose works from 19th century American painters, such as Thomas Cole and Thomas Moran.
I'm also noticing the lovely lighting above some of the painting. Now, is that pre-planned?
That's
with you?
pre-planned. I like to include picture lights on my projects because it's a way to encourage people to complete the project. The art is the thing that really completes the interior.
Right next to the living room is an exquisite dining room. Of all the rooms in the apartment, this one required the least renovation, only modernized electrical wiring and air conditioning ducts. As a result, Tim concentrated mostly on redecorating this space.
Oh, Tim, this is wonderful. Now, what strikes me first? That it's very formal, but it's so light and airy at the same time.
Well, I think that's probably a result of the wall covering, which is a hand-painted Chinese wallpaper, which gives the feeling of a garden room. Also, I think when you're dealing with a square room as this is, putting a round table in the center of the room creates a sense of intimacy and doesn't really feel quite as formal.
The room is lit by a French-style crystal chandelier, and the table can be expanded with unique leaves attached at the edges, which allow for seating up to 12 guests. Other accents added to the room are the lighted, arched, built-in china cabinet and antique furnishings such as this 19th century English server and an antique French gilt mirror. But next door to the dining room is a space that required a great deal more work. The original kitchen was narrow and cramped and needed new cabinets and appliances. Tim brought in team member Jeffrey Stuhl, a general contractor, to tackle the challenges of this room.
Jeffrey is responsible for bringing together all the workmen that create everything you see here. He implements my designs.
That must be really something in a city, especially since like the workmen can't take a break outside on the lawn for lunch.
No, it's very difficult. You're working with a service elevator to get material up and down, and if there are other projects going on in the building, you have to wait your turn. Limited building hours, Monday through Friday, usually 9 to 4. So there's no time for messing around. Lunch is quick, half hour, and get back to work.
Working off Tim's design, Jeffrey replaced the old cabinets with light-colored maple ones, which brighten the room substantially.
That's some range.
That is a commercial quality range, and a restaurant caterer could come in here and prepare a dinner for any number of people, and that was really the intention, that the kitchen would function well for a catering situation as well.
But the appliances presented some of the greatest difficulties in this remodel, especially the industrial-sized refrigerator called a Sub-Zero.
The compressor had to come off, it had to go up on top of the service elevator because the elevator itself is a small closet basically, and getting anything up of any size was difficult.
The result of all this effort is a spacious, professional caliber kitchen in a limited space environment. Next, we'll venture into the sumptuous master bedroom suite when Dream Living continues. Renovating an apartment in a New York high-rise can be a daunting task under even the best of circumstances. However, interior designer Tim McDonald and his team pulled off a renovation miracle by completely refurbishing a 1920s-era apartment on the posh Upper East Side in just 6 months. While the entertaining areas of the home are spectacular, the private areas show off some of the most handsome craftsmanship in the apartment. Right off the entrance hall, and just to the left of the living room, is the den. Tim completely gutted the room and installed mahogany French doors and cabinetry and a state-of-the-art entertainment center. Down the hall from the den is the entrance to the master suite, one of the most lavish spaces in the house. Here, too, is evidence of some of the most beautiful remodeling in the home. At the entrance to the master suite is a dressing area, and it's here Tim introduced Bruce Nickel, the team's painting contractor.
I've been noticing the paint around this home, and it's just exceptional. It's not just paint.
No, it's a lot of skilled craftsmen, a lot of hours of work.
According to Tim, Bruce was one of the most important contributors in this renovation. He is the last person to touch every surface and oversaw the painters and finishers who worked on all the walls throughout the apartment. This included not only the bedrooms, but the stunning gold leaf on the ceiling in the vestibule off the elevator, and the finish to these mirrored closets in the master bedroom dressing area.
I really do love the finish on here. It makes it look a lot more like furniture than cabinetry.
Well, that was the intention. This had been a small bedroom off the master bedroom, and what we did was knock the wall out, open it up to the hallway, and create a big walk-in dressing area.
A dream come true for any woman I know.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And the master bedroom is
Over that
there?
way.
The master bedroom adjoining the dressing area was reconfigured to take advantage of the southern exposure.
I love the canopy.
Thank you. That's an English four-poster bed. We did the canopy in a pale sort of peach silk. And of course, all the hangings and the skirt and the coverlet are all custom made.
And I love how the colors blend so beautifully with the walls, but that's not wallpaper, is it?
No, it's actually silk fabric that Tim selected. It's actually glued onto the walls like wallpaper is. And it's very difficult to work with. It frays when you cut it. It's hard to keep it straight. But as you see, the end result is wonderful.
It's very rich. Very rich, and I love the edges.
That's a double welt that is in all the corners and the edges.
A true finish.
Right.
Down the hall and opposite the dressing area is the master bathroom, originally a small bedroom and tiny bath. Tim removed the walls and reconfigured the space to fit a luxurious bathtub, a large walk-in shower, and a makeup and vanity area. It's just another example of how Tim used his design talents to convert a small apartment into a dream home. I'm just wondering, Tim, as you come back here like a year or two later and see the results of all your efforts, what is the one thing that you remember that made it all work for you?
It's the people. It's the group that was assembled. It's the professionals, people like Bruce, who I could work with to make a wonderful place.
And a great designer.
Definitely. Well, let's go join the rest of the group.
Great.
Terrific. For most big city dwellers, home should be a quiet refuge from the chaos of urban life. Timothy McDonald has shown us apartment living can be just as comfortable, refined, and genteel as a home in the country. As a tribute to Tim's skill and the efforts of his hand-picked team, what was once a drab flat has been transformed into a spacious home. And I would like to propose a toast to all of you and a job extremely well done. Congratulations.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Coming up next, we'll travel to the West Coast and meet another dream team of architects and designers and see how they converted an old ranch into a stunning beachfront retreat when Dream Living returns. Malibu, California is known for its mudslides, its earthquakes, its fires, its floods, pretty much any natural disaster you can think of. So why would world-renowned retailer Fred Heyman want to have his weekend retreat here? Oh, come on. One picture is definitely worth 1,000 words. Malibu, California, just north of bustling Los Angeles on the Pacific Coast Highway. This sleepy oceanfront community with its laid-back style is home to movie stars and beach bums alike. And it's no wonder this is the residence of choice for those who can swing it. Walled by the spectacular Santa Monica Mountains and the gentle Pacific, Malibu offers some of the best scenery in Southern California. 8 years ago, famous parfumier and entrepreneur Fred Heyman, founder of Giorgio's of Beverly Hills, and his wife Betty, discovered this oceanfront home along Malibu's shores and decided it would be the perfect place to escape the rat race of Rodeo Drive. Where the Heymans' primary residence in Beverly Hills is designed for formal entertaining, the Malibu retreat is reserved for family and quiet time. But this beachfront retreat wasn't always this lavish. When Fred bought the house over 8 years ago, it was a nondescript 1970s ranch-style house. While he wasn't wild about ranch-style design, Fred made do with the house as it was, simply enjoying it as a weekend oasis away from the daily grind of his business. But a couple of years ago, the renovation bug bit him, and he decided to convert this house into a dream retreat. Not only did the house need renovation, but so did the property, and Fred employed an army of architects, designers, and craftsmen to transform both the grounds and the house of this beachfront hideaway. You know, the first thing that impresses me about your home is this lovely patio. It's not just a patio, it's more like an outdoor room, including fireplace.
Well, you know, the whole idea was to have a park on one side and the ocean with grass on the other side.
To help achieve the goal on 2.5 acres of overgrown and untamed estate, Fred contracted local Malibu landscape architect Jim Dean.
Well, landscape architects are essentially environmental planners. We're sort of in charge of the land, and our work normally is exterior of a building. An architect does the interiors, and a landscape architect does the exterior.
Tell me some of the things that you've done, starting with this. Now, I thought this was a lawn until I walked up and saw that it also had concrete in it.
This is a motor court, believe it or not, and below the grass are blocks of concrete, little specially designed blocks that allow the grass to grow up through there, and a car can drive across this without destroying the grass.
The old-fashioned motor court with its lush grassy expanse is typical of European country homes and was only one of the continental touches Swiss transplant Fred Heyman insisted on.
Fred was very, very specific about wanting a park-like setting. You know, this was very, very important. In every meeting I had with him, this came up again and again and again. I want a park-like, I want this to feel like a park. And so that's why we have all the grass and stately feeling to the lot.
But the hardest part of Jim Dean's job is understanding how the foliage he has so carefully designed will look when it grows to maturity. In the case of some of the larger elements, this could mean envisioning how a tree will cast shade 20 years from now. You know, as I look around at all the detail, I must say you've probably been a very patient man to place all these things correctly.
Well, I like to say design is a patient search.
Well, I think you're probably right. James' perseverance has paid off in triplicate, and he has created the perfect environment for informal rest and relaxation. It's exactly what Fred Heyman had in mind when he envisioned this sunny weekend retreat. Because of Malibu's one-of-a-kind position between the forested Santa Monica Mountains and the Pacific Ocean, Fred's ideal Malibu retreat would take the best from both these worlds and roll them together into one. But the house that stood on this property couldn't accommodate any of Fred's ideas, so when he decided to transform this into his dream house, the monumental job of refitting this house to meet Heyman's demands fell on Los Angeles architect Wiley Carter.
Now, you were brought onto the project 8 years after Fred had moved into the house, right?
That's true. Fred had lived here and enjoyed just being at the beach. And it took a while for him to decide he really wanted to improve the house so that he could enjoy the beach even more. The house was originally 1960 style ranch house, and most of the back walls here were rather plain with just a few much smaller windows.
Wiley's task was to transform the house into a more classical, European-feeling structure, and in the process, make the most of the stunning location. But one of the more spectacular, if invisible, improvements was suggested by the building contractor.
When the project was bid out for construction, we had 5 contractors bidding, and one of them said, "Have you thought about raising the second floor?" And we all said, "No, it's a remodel." And he said, "I don't think it'll be that much money." So in the end, we actually saw cut the entire second floor off from the first floor, raised it up on jacks, and rebuilt the structure underneath to support it. And it makes just a much more wonderful room because it has relatively large dimensions, and now you have the ceiling height and the view just comes in that much more dramatically.
Wiley also had the outer walls resurfaced for a more Mediterranean stucco look. With trailing ivy on the walls and a faux copper patina or painted finish on the windows and railings, this beach house now looks like it could be just as easily tucked into a Mediterranean cove as the shores of Malibu. But renovating the exterior is only half of the story of this house's transformation. When Dream Living returns, we'll take a look at how Fred and his designer transformed the interior of this dream home. This magnificent Malibu beach house is the weekend getaway for Beverly Hills parfumier and entrepreneur Fred Heyman. When Fred moved in 8 years ago, the house looked nothing like it does today. With a less expansive floor plan and lots of smaller, more cramped rooms, the old house needed lots of work before it would be the classic European-style country home Fred dreamed of. Once the structural renovations were complete, Fred needed to revamp the interior design as well. He contacted his old friend and interior designer Jack Lawrence to help him. With the help of this longtime collaborator, Fred has struck the perfect balance of casual and chic. The furnishings are an eclectic mix of furniture that used to be in Fred's office, guest houses, and primary residence in Beverly Hills. They were pieces Fred loved and thought might work at his beach house, but he needed a hand fitting all his favorite furnishings into the house and making it work stylistically rather than looking haphazard and mismatched. Jack also has to contend with new purchases that arrive every day from Fred's adventurous shopping trips.
In fact, these just arrived yesterday.
These are great, and the primary colors, I have a feeling the yellow had something to do with it.
Has a lot to do with yellow.
Definitely.
You can never give me enough
The yellow tie.
And it's hard to get a designer really to work with yellow. It's not a very flattering top. But we'll keep adding a little yellow as we go along.
No, but it's working. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
But it was Fred who suggested these casual and practical limestone floors for the beach house. Durable and beautiful, these floors take a beating, and it's perfectly okay to track in sand on them. The living room shares this open space with the dining room. The casual open floor plan approach was part of Fred's vision of this as a relaxed, informal space.
And this is a great dining room too, because it looks like it could go very formal if you had to, but also it's got that casual, almost nautical feel with the chairs. And this, I noticed this piece coming in, this is an old...
Oh, that's 18th century. Because originally the concept of the house, going way back before, it's gone through many changes from the concept of the house, is going to be done in country French.
On the dining room walls, Jack has applied a painted limestone mural called trompe-l'oeil, a French phrase meaning to fool the eye. The painting blends seamlessly with the limestone floors and gives this room an element of poise and sophistication without being ornate. It's just one of the many subtle ways in which Jack is able to take what would appear to be a hodgepodge of styles and unify them into one harmonious design.
I buy things in France. I buy things without really knowing where they're going to be. That's why.
Oh, but then he needs you to help figure out where they're going to end up.
Absolutely. You know, Jack finds a spot. And he's not the kind of guy who's going to sell you. So if he can function and use what we already have, it has much more charm, much more warmth, and it's not so decorated.
Jack, has he ever given you a piece and handed you a piece and said, find a place for this, and you just look at it and say, I have no idea what to do with it?
I can show you some.
On the other side of the living room, opposite the dining room, is a bar.
It's like a room of movie memorabilia, isn't it?
Yeah, it turned out to be that way, actually. And, you know, I love to reminisce about all these wonderful times I've had over the years.
Fred and Jack have taken great pains to keep this beach home casual but convenient. And it's not hard to imagine lounging in this room with family or friends over a long weekend. And that is what this Malibu retreat is all about. It would take a dream house to live up to the expectations this stunning view inspires, and with the help of a legion of architects and designers, Fred has created just such a fantasy home out of an outdated ranch.
You know, Fred, Malibu gets a really bad rap. Disasters, fires, floods. Did you ever feel it was a risk building here?
No, I never think of the risk, and it's so infrequent, really, that there's nothing like being in Malibu. It's the ultimate. It's a dream, as you would say.
Well, thank you for inviting us today, and we've really had a great time. You have a beautiful home.
Thank
you really
you
do.
for being
Thank you.
Have a good day.
And thank you for being with us. Please come back next time for another edition of Dream Living. For Fred Heyman and for all of us on the show, I'm Jody Daly. Goodbye.